G'day everyone, welcome to the first episode of Clickability's new video series. Well, we'll be exploring a whole host of different topics, different themes from transport to access and NUS, inspiration porn, and all of the above. So we hope that you enjoy Belle and I talking about these many different topics, which is the perfect segue to welcome Belle. Belle, how are you doing?
Good, Tris. How are you?
I'm really well. It's a Friday afternoon at the time of recording, so the weekend is upon
Yes.
us. So,
It's looking like a gloomy weekend here in Melbourne. Bit of rain, but we'll
it,
make the best of it.
it's the same in Brisbane, which usually isn't the
Oh
case.
no.
Usually Brisbane's
Yeah.
sunny. Anyway, what can we do?
Yeah.
But I would love to begin by getting you to tell us a little bit about yourself and to all
Sure
our
thing.
viewers.
So, I'm a disability services advisor with Clickability. I'm a congenital amputee, missing my left forearm on hand, although that comes quite down in the list of priority things about me. I've been a disability advocate since I was a teen when I became a member of Amputees New South Wales and their AMP Camp program. I was there as a camper till I was 18 and then went back as a leader. And since then have been on boards at the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, organised Amputee Day Out, all of those sorts of things. And it's something I'm really passionate about. I'm super excited to be here to talk with you today, Tris.
I'm so excited to have a chat. Our viewers are going to get used to us just going off on tangents, I think, and having a bit of a
Yeah.
chin wag. But yeah, you do so much more than me. That's amazing.
Oh,
Are you still involved in these activities?
I am. Well, this year, AMP Camp, well, last year, 2020, AMP Camp couldn't happen, very sadly, in all of the COVID stuff, but instead we ran online webinars. So I was part of organizing
Cool.
all of that, which was pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm still dipping my toe into all of those things, although it tends to be virtual these days.
Yeah, no, it's great how technology just sort of facilitated us to continue doing what we were
Yeah,
doing. And there's so many life lessons that we've got out of COVID, which I think is really valuable and
totally.
important. But I suppose that's now my turn to tell a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about myself. So I have a lovely condition called spinal muscular atrophy, which means that my muscles waste over time. I'm a power chair user, NDS participant, and have been with Clickability for a long time. People have probably seen
Amazing.
me running at socials and doing
Mm-hmm.
various exciting marketing campaigns. But beyond that, my life outside of Clickability, I also do a podcast. And I'm a mad,
Shameless plug there.
thank you. There'll be more. And I'm
Excellent.
also a passionate footballer. So that's also been something that
So cool.
there's going to be so many sports puns. So I apologize to everyone that doesn't like
Yeah.
sport, but it's for a different person.
Yeah.
But that's me. So welcome everyone to our video series, and today we want to begin by exploring transport and disability. Belle and I have encountered transport in its many forms, some
Yes.
of the hurdles, some of the challenges.
Mm,
And also some sort of innovative ways in which we've overcome those very same things. So
totally.
it's going to be a good chat. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of hiccups along the way as transport with a person with a disability. I know myself driving was a bit of a main struggle. PTV was not so much of an issue for me. I'm lucky in that. And I always think it's quite funny when people on the bus will offer me a seat. I'm like, I do have two legs. It's the arm that's missing, and those aren't required to stand up, but thank you nonetheless. Um, but yeah, for me, I know, Tris, you know a little bit about this, but getting my license was definitely a process down here in Victoria.
Yeah.
So that starts at 16, just as for anyone, and you have to go and get your L's. So you do the online test on the computer, and I failed the first time, which was very embarrassing after telling everyone that I went to do it. And not many people fail their L's. A few fail their P's, but L's are pretty easy to pass, and yet I managed to fail. And then along with my normal L test that everyone does, I had to get a occupational therapy assessment, which I thought would be fine. I had always loved my OT at the Royal Children's Hospital. Shout out to Lisa, she's amazing. But no, this was a very different experience. It was not only a physical test, but a cognitive test, which is
No.
hilarious. Yeah,
How
well,
How did they reconcile that you needed a
Yeah, well,
cognitive
didn't you
test?
know that being an amputee affects your brain? Didn't you know that actually that's where your brain is stored in your left forearm? And if you don't have it, there's nothing going on up there. No, so yeah, it was a physical test of things that it was like, how fast can you turn around in a circle? I'm like, I'm a fit 16-year-old. I can turn around in a circle pretty damn fast. Let me show you. And then it was a cognitive test of things like, oh, do you know what month it is? If I give you 3 words, cat, bag, hat, can you say those back to me 3 times in a row? So some pretty insulting stuff, to be honest.
Yeah,
And the
these.
privilege of that test cost me extra $600, more than everyone else pays for their L's, which was great.
So you had no choice whatsoever in
None.
this
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hearing that they made some pretty big assumptions about your
Yes.
disability. They didn't consult with you at all, and
No.
those tests are valid for certain people, for other people, and
Yeah.
the fact that they
Totally.
just assume that you need to do it, that's just a
Yeah.
travesty.
And there were certainly parts of it that were relevant and necessary that I think were great. You know, they were able to assess that a spinner knob would be the most helpful thing for me with driving, which is excellent. But it was kind of like you tick a box that says disabled, and they've put us all into the one category and done the cognitive and physical test for people who it's not
Yeah.
relative to. So it was very frustrating. And then 2 years later, when I went to get my P's, I had to do the same thing again, another $600 out of pocket, which is also hilarious because a congenital amputation is not a degenerative thing. It stays the same. Nothing's changing here. So the same test 2 years later was completely irrelevant. And again, really not fun to be a part of.
So how, in that situation, when you're faced with that hurdle,
Mm.
do you advocate? Like, what channels were there for you to try and remedy the system, or as much as you
Yeah.
could?
Well, in the immediate situation at the end of my OT assessment, the OT was like, "Oh, do you have any questions about
Yeah.
that?" I was like, "Where do I start? Do I have any questions?" One would be, "Is this legal? I think it might be in breach of my human rights," which in fact I do believe it is. And so in immediate, I made a complaint at that specific OT, and then I went back through Vic Roads and all of the bureaucracy that involved with them being like, "No, we're not like in charge of the OT assessments. That's like their own thing. You have to take that up with them." I'm like, you're the delegate body in
Yeah.
Victoria for this sort of thing. And it's the same case in New South Wales. I have friends there who've had the exact same process happen to them, and they just weren't taking any responsibility for it. So I got some assistance from some friends in the amputee community who have worked in advocacy and in transport with governmental bodies before, and they were able to take me through the channels for an official complaint. So there is possible to do that. Unfortunately, my complaint didn't see any change occur. I know a boy, Jack, who I'm friends with, has just been through the exact same thing
Oh,
a
goodness.
month ago. But I think for anyone who's thinking about getting their license or going through that process, ask for an OT that you're comfortable with, one you know. Don't let them assign you one, would be my recommendation if you have an OT that you like, and someone who will be a little bit more aware of your skills and less likely to ask insulting questions. And then, yeah, just make a complaint, and hopefully if there's a build-up of those sorts of complaints to those management bodies, we'll see some change occurring.
Yeah, and it's so important you touched on the advocacy there, that there are these
Mm,
organisations in place that can assist us.
totally.
We're both very lucky that we're very, very, well, not very, slightly outspoken. We're
Yes,
very capable
bolshy.
of sort of, yeah, love it. So it's great that there are organisations that can also support
Mm,
us, and other
yeah.
people in these situations. But oh my goodness, I can't imagine how frustrating that would have been for you. It's
Oh,
just
so yeah,
ridiculous.
incredibly frustrating. And being in the context where, as you say, I'm a very outspoken person and was happy to be kind of having a complaint and knowing that not everyone has that level of confidence and that level of comfort, and they're having to go through that as well as not feeling that they can speak for themselves in those circumstances, which is why
Yeah.
it's so important that we have discussions like this to open the dialogue about that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my challenges with transport being slightly different. So I'm a patch user, as I said, so I can't use
Mm.
a car like most other
Yep.
people. I can't get in the front seat. The technology is way too expensive. It's about $200,000 for me
Yes.
to drive my chair, so it's slightly out of my ballpark. Um,
Mm.
so I
Just
think
slightly.
just slightly. But I think for me, the biggest challenge has been with public transport. So I rely on that to get to and from. And I remember
Of
just
course.
the other day, I was coming home from the office, got to Central Station, so the train station CBD of Brisbane,
Yeah.
and all the lifts bar one was out.
Oh
So
gosh.
I couldn't get to the platform for my train line. So I had
Yeah.
to go to another platform, get a train one stop, to then switch
Oh my
trains to
God.
my train line to get to
Yeah.
my destination, for the lift to be out
Oh.
at my home train station,
Oh
to
my
then
God.
get another stop further where I could get off the train.
That's
Um,
insane.
and it was pouring rain, so I was
Yeah.
drenched in getting into a cab that they
Yeah.
very graciously paid for, to get me back to
Gosh.
my home. But it just
Yeah.
goes to show that, like, there are all these physical barriers. Sometimes
Mm,
things just
mm.
go wrong that we can't
Yeah.
overcome.
And
And
things that should be so basic that you shouldn't have to think about, am I going to be able to get home from the office on a given day? No one else is having to think about that sort of issue. But in our context, yeah, that's incredibly frustrating.
yeah, it's the fact that we've got to plan so
Yeah.
much. Wouldn't it be great to be spontaneous and just
It
do?
would be
It'd be
wonderful.
so glorious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in terms of the technology then for you driving,
Mm.
is it a different setup? What does the setup look like for
So
yourself?
it's not too majorly different, which I was very lucky in because again, that's a cost that prior to the NDAS, people would have to take on board financially themselves. There was not enough support for those sorts of things. So for me, it's a spinner knob on my steering wheel. So it just screws in with an Allen key. It's super easy. And the only context in which I'm using it is for like big turns when normally people would be using two hands to kind of
Sure.
get the steering wheel around, whereas I can just like spin it back like that. I think I just look very cool, like someone always driving with one hand, like very chill,
Amazing.
like relaxed. So that's what I have. And I know that that is like a requirement on my license. So if I get pulled over by the coppers, like I have to have it on there, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. And it's the same sort of requirement like for people that have to have glasses. It just says it on the back of your license.
Yeah.
But in terms of that OT assessment and getting that, it's another good reason to get an OT you're comfortable with, because I know a friend of mine who I know through AMP Camp as well was able to find an OT who would allow him to drive without any modifications, and figured out a way of him to do that and like make it work. He's a lower limb amputee, and wanted to not have to have the expense of modifying his car. So through the right OT, that was able to be done for him. So that just really adds to the importance of that there.
That's amazing. And then he can just not worry about expenses, just get from
Exactly.
A to
Yeah.
B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And if he's, in traveling to Europe whenever that's allowed again, can hire a car and not have to worry about it because he's learnt to drive in his own body and using his own capability, not having to rely on equipment for that.
that's amazing. And it's so
Yeah.
great that his OT was able to support him in that way,
Definitely.
because
Yeah.
that's person centered, that's individualized. It's
Yes. Yes.
that's
As it should be.
I
Yeah.
want to drive now. One day I'll drive.
Yeah.
And
I'll
believe
come. I'll
me,
drive up to Brizzy. We'll go for a spin.
you can teach me. You can be my driving
Yeah.
instructor. Awesome.
Totally.
Because
I don't know if I'm a very good driver. I don't know if my friends would attest to that, but I don't think that's got anything to do with the arms, just perhaps a little scatterbrained.
I'm the same. I'm the same. You don't want me
Yeah.
on the roads, to be fair, but
No.
I'll still try one day. So basically, the way that I get around in my car is we've ripped out an entire sort of, the whole back of the car has just been ripped out. We've built like a
Nice.
lower cage, so I just drive in.
Epic.
I
Yeah.
can't get to the front seat yet, so when I do,
Okay. But is that a work in progress?
look out worlds. I think
Yeah.
so. We'll get there. We'll get there
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
Totally. Yeah.
It's amazing for me, being part of various Facebook and social media groups with people with the same conditions, and we just swap stories, and similar
Yes.
to you with the AMP camp, where people have been before you and done these sorts of things, and they can lend their
Yeah.
collective wisdom. So it's not like
Totally.
you're doing it on your own. It's not like
Yeah. And
having to do
even,
this all.
obviously that's super great for the practical sides of things, but even the emotional side of things, like, getting into a OT assessment and someone questioning your mental capacity because you have one arm is pretty an upsetting thing to go through. So it's great to have that support on the emotional side as well. People can be like, yeah, I've been through that experience. It's crappy. Like, let's get through it, which is really great.
Have you have you mentored and assisted people going through the same process?
I have, yeah. So a lot of friends in Vic or New South Wales, where the legislation is very similar about those things, I've been able to assist them with getting that process and finding funding for OTs prior to, which is really great.
That's brilliant. I think that's the perfect takeaway for today, is that there are places that can assist you in advocating.
Yeah,
There's
totally.
technology there to assist you in getting the setup that you need.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also that it's so powerful that there are people there that have done it before. So
Yes.
you don't have to feel like
Yeah.
you're alone. You can use
Yeah.
their support too.
Totally. And there are ways to get this technology and these processes to work for us rather than us having to work for them. We just gotta go for it and know, you know, the nooks and crannies of all of these things and figure it out.
So you put that so well. I think that's the way to finish. I think we've
Yeah.
capped it.
Amazing.
We've peaked in
Yeah.
terms of our first episode.
Quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, why not? But we hope that everyone's enjoyed our discussion on transport. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like us to discuss in the future, definitely
Totally.
let us know in the comments. We've also got the Clickability. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm too excited.
Yep.
I can't get the words out. We've got the Clickability blog with a whole lot of
Yes.
resources as well. So we recommend that you check
Yep.
that out. And that's a wrap. I think that's it.
Amazing.
Let's say
Well
goodbye
done,
to the
Tris. Well done,
people.
us.
Yeah,
See you, everyone.
cheers. Bye, guys.
Nice to be able to chat. Bye.